off with a look at the day's headlines. D1 to the Games, and the North Korean leader's sister is coming to South Korea for the start of the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics. She's coming with a group of her brother's elite inner circle. She'll become the first member of the Kim family to ever make a trip south of the border. US Vice President Mike Pence is en route to South Korea for the Winter Olympics after previewing the toughest US sanctions ever on North Korea while in Tokyo. His goal, not just attending the Olympics, but reminding the world that Washington is determined to denuclearize the regime. Plus, the death toll rises in earthquake hit Taiwan after a second powerful aftershock jolts the island. Rescuers are searching for dozens of people thought to be trapped under rubble. So let's start with the big news out of North Korea. The North is sending the sister of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un to South Korea for the start of the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics. Kim Yo-jong will arrive on Friday with a group of other bigwigs from the regime. We await to see what kind of response her trip might bring from US Vice President Mike Pence, who is set to arrive in Seoul this afternoon. Oh Jung-hee starts us off.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's sister, Kim Yo-jong, will be the first of Pyongyang's Kim dynasty of the so-called Mount Baekdu bloodline to visit South Korea. The North notified the South on Wednesday of its high-level delegation. Its Seoul's unification ministry said Pyongyang seems to have taken into account both Kim Yo-jong's position within the regime, as well as the fact that national leaders tend to send their family members to other countries for celebrations. Experts say Pyongyang aims to maximize the effect of the sudden change of atmosphere on the Korean peninsula by using Kim Yo-jong as a card. The scheduled presence of U.S. President Donald Trump's daughter, Ivanka Trump, is another reason.
President Trump is sending his country's Vice President Mike Pence as well as his daughter, and the North would have considered that. By sending delegates who are at the same level with those of the U.S., like Kim Yo-jong and Kim Yong-nam, the North aims to show it's willing to improve ties with the South.
Pundits add that another person making the trip south, Choi Hui, is going not only because he's the regime's highest authority in sports, but also a very close aide to Kim Jong-un. Also, Ri Sun-kwon as a control tower-like figure since he led the North Korean delegation at the high-level talks a month ago. By sending Kim Yo-jong to the South, experts believe Pyongyang aims to show the world that it's sincere about improving inter-Korean ties. They see it as highly likely that Kim Yo-jong will deliver proposals or messages to South Korean President Moon Jae-in on behalf of her brother.
North Korea could make some dramatic proposals to the South through Kim Yo-jong, like holding Seoul-Pyongyang summit talks or having a high-level South Korean delegation visit the North. So the Seoul government will have to be ready for all possible scenarios.
While eyes had been on whether the high-level delegations from Washington and Pyongyang could sit down for talks during the Olympics, North Korea has shunned the possibility. According to the North's state-run Korean Central News Agency on Thursday, Cho Young-sam, a director general at North Korea's foreign ministry, said the regime's delegation does not intend to meet any U.S. officials. He stressed the delegation is only going to Pyeongchang to celebrate the successful hosting of the Games, and the regime does not want to nor need to use the international sports event as a political opportunity. Yojong, Arirang News.
Now, as part of the pre-Olympic celebrations, North Korea's Samjion Orchestra will perform in the sub-host city of Gangneung this evening. All 560 tickets for the performance at the Gangneung Arts Centre have been reserved. The 90-minute performance will start at 8 p.m. local time. It will be the first North Korean performance in South Korea since 2002, when Pyongyang sent 30 singers and dancers to Seoul for a joint event. The orchestra will hold their second performance on Sunday at the National Theatre of Korea in central Seoul. North Korea is set to hold a massive military parade in Pyongyang today, a day before the Winter Olympics kick off here in the south, marking the 70th anniversary of the founding of the Korean People's Army. The parade is likely to feature thousands of soldiers and weapons, including ICBMs, tanks and other military hardware. Satellite images show the regime has been rehearsing with 13,000 troops, and South Korea's unification minister says the parade looks to be quite intimidating. A former CIA officer says the rehearsal and the parade itself will be very valuable for intelligence purposes. And other observers say the decision to stage such a parade is a deliberate attempt to upstage the games and stir up fear. So it's D-1 to the long-awaited Pyeongchang Winter Olympic Games and a flurry of pre-Olympics diplomacy for President Moon Jae-in as he's hosting meetings today with several state-level guests at the Blue House. As we speak, the South Korean leader is holding talks with his Swiss counterpart. Their meeting starting just moments ago. In around 90 minutes, President Moon will hold a summit meeting with German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier, which will be followed by an official luncheon. In the afternoon, President Moon will meet with Han Zheng, a member of the Politburo Standing Committee of the Communist Party of China, and then meet with Polish President Andrzej Duda. And last but not least, starting at 4:30 p.m, President Moon will meet and dine with US Vice President Mike Pence and his wife. And US Vice President Mike Pence says the Trump administration plans to unveil its toughest and most aggressive sanctions yet on North Korea, though no details have been released. Pence is expected to say that the new measures will halt the regime's nuclear and missile programs once and for all. Kwon Jang-oh reports.
Describing North Korea as the most dangerous threat to the Indo-Pacific region, US Vice President Mike Pence reiterated that all options remain on the table. He said previous efforts at diplomacy with the regime had failed and that the current administration would continue to put pressure on the regime. In that regard, he made a surprise announcement.
The United States of America will soon unveil the toughest and most aggressive round of economic sanctions on North Korea ever. And we will continue to isolate North Korea until it abandons its nuclear and ballistic missile program once and for all.
Pence did not elaborate on what those sanctions might be, but US officials have said that they expect them to be implemented before the end of the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics. The Vice President also sent a stern warning on the North's participation with South Korea at the Games. He noted that although the two Koreas have previously competed in sporting events together, those have not resulted in any change in the North, and said he would not allow North Korean propaganda to hijack the message of the Olympics. He also thanked Japan for its cooperation in dealing with North Korea and promised Tokyo continued American protection, while Abe pledged to continue to work with Washington and Seoul to push Pyongyang towards change. Pence will head to South Korea on Thursday, where he'll meet with President Moon Jae-in and attend the Pyeongchang Olympics opening ceremony on Friday. Despite Pence's strong words, he's not ruled out meeting with North Korean officials while in Pyeongchang, saying that he will see what happens. Significant talks are not expected, but any interaction will be closely watched. Kwon Jang-oh, Arirang News.
Russia and Japan have agreed to closely cooperate to resolve the North Korean nuclear issue. Meeting in Tokyo on Wednesday, the country's representatives to the six-party talks on North Korea's denuclearization exchanged their views on the current situation on the Korean peninsula. They welcomed the ongoing inter-Korean dialogue aimed at ensuring a safe and successful Pyeongchang Winter Olympics. Japan urged Russia to apply maximum pressure on the North through sanctions, but Russia said improving relations is key, as sanctions are no longer effective. Now for a look at stories making headlines around the world, and we start with a potential US military parade. The White House and the Pentagon are said to be planning a parade at the request of President Trump. For more on this and other news, let's turn to our Noah Adam. So Adam, this decision has not gone down very well at all with many people over fears of heavy costs and a potential return to Cold War hostilities.
That's right, Mark. Trump hinted at a possible military parade after being impressed with the French Bastille Day military parade in Paris last July. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff confirmed on Wednesday that initial planning is underway, which would include working out a date and location. Defense Secretary James Mattis told a White House briefing that the parade plan reflects Trump's respect for the armed forces. However, the idea has been heavily criticized by Democrats, with some saying they would boycott such an event if it was to take place. They have lashed out at Trump's willingness to spend millions of dollars on what they called his amusement, adding that the money should rather go towards helping troops. There are also concerns that it could spark a new Cold War. Military parades are common in authoritarian countries such as North Korea, but it's not something that is quintessentially American. The concern is that a parade in the US will only fuel already high tensions between Washington and Pyongyang. Meanwhile, one of the potential locations being considered is along Pennsylvania Avenue, where the White House is located. But the Washington, D.C. City Council rejected the idea, saying heavy military vehicles would leave the road in ruins, and also that the parade would cause havoc in terms of cleaning and security. Taiwan is still suffering from strong aftershocks after Tuesday's 6.4 magnitude earthquake, which killed at least 7 people. On Wednesday, a strong 5.7 magnitude quake jolted the same spot as Tuesday's tremor, which was about 20 kilometers northeast of Hualien. The second quake came as rescuers in the city are still desperately trying to search for dozens of people trapped inside buildings that are tilting or have already collapsed. Details on how much damage Wednesday's tremor has added were not immediately available. More than 140 civilians are reported to have died in Syria after a new wave of airstrikes by Russia and Syrian government forces. The United Nations has called the situation extreme and is appealing for a ceasefire. Our Park So-yeon reports.
A wave of airstrikes pounded an area just outside Damascus for a third day on Wednesday, defying the UN's call for a ceasefire. The government of President Bashar al-Assad, backed by Russian air power, has besieged eastern Ghouta as they look to crush extremist holdouts in the area. The airstrikes have reportedly killed at least 140 civilians since the government intensified its bombardment on Monday. Monitoring groups said warplanes bombed several areas on Wednesday, with buildings collapsing on residents. On the third day of the bombing campaign, at least 32 people, including 10 children, were killed. Tuesday was one of the deadliest days, with 80 people, including 21 children, killed. Approximately 400,000 people are trapped in eastern Ghouta, which has been under siege by pro-government forces since 2013. It escalated last May after Assad's forces conducted a large-scale offensive in the area. Human rights groups are also investigating reports of alleged chemical attacks on civilians in 2 Syrian towns. The French foreign minister said on Wednesday that all indications show that the Syrian regime is using chlorine gas at the moment. The U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, also released a statement condemning Damascus in the strongest terms. The United Nations says the scale of suffering in Syria has reached unprecedented levels, with access to aid blocked in 3 major centers. The UN is calling for an immediate ceasefire to enable the delivery of humanitarian aid and to evacuate the critically ill and injured. Park So-yeon, Arirang News.
So, the 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Olympic Games officially begin on Friday evening with the opening ceremony, but the competition actually starts today. Team Korea is already in action in mixed doubles curling, with the mixed doubles event in curling being introduced for the very first time in Pyeongchang. The South Korean duo of Jang Hae-ji and Yojong are currently playing their round-robin session 1 against Finland. The South Korean duo will play their second match against China this evening. And US President Donald Trump has wished South Korea all the best hosting the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics. Taking to Twitter on Wednesday, President Trump said he hopes the Olympics will be a wonderful opportunity to show everyone what a great nation South Korea is. Together with a tweet, Trump uploaded a video showing a portion of his speech at the National Assembly in Seoul, where he mentions how South Korea has overcome the disaster of war and now stands tall as a strong nation. Vice President Mike Pence, he's going to be leading the US delegation at the opening ceremony, and President Trump's daughter, Ivanka, will attend the closing ceremony. Olympic athletes from around the world are getting accustomed to their new home for the next 3 weeks. Looking confident in the Olympic villages, the athletes seem eager to get going after 4 years of blood, sweat and tears, preparing for the highlight of their sporting careers. Lee Ji-won reports from the host city of Pyeongchang.
Starting with the Romanian team on February 5th, the Pyeongchang and Gangneung Olympic villages have been holding team welcoming ceremonies for the Winter Olympics athletes. They welcomed Team Korea on Wednesday. With more athletes arriving at the villages by the day, excitement for the Games is growing.
This is what we've all been looking forward to. We've been together as a team since the beginning of August, so for it finally be time to move into the village and to get the Olympics started, it's extremely exciting.
The welcoming ceremonies are still going on until Friday, but many athletes have moved in and started training already, creating a real buzz around the Olympic villages.
It's really exciting, yeah. We got on the course for the first time last night onto the mogul course and checked out the venue and got a sense for what it's like and go. I think everyone's really positive with their vibes at the moment. There's a great atmosphere around and everyone just can't wait to compete.
That great atmosphere could also be felt over at the main press center, where the briefing rooms are fully booked with teams wanting to share their determination and Olympics goals to the world.
It's a pretty cool atmosphere. It's a big scene. You know, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of kind of media people, for instance, and a lot of other stuff keeping us busy. So yeah, I mean, it feels like it's the big event, the main event.
With the first event of the Pyeongchang Olympics to start on Thursday and the opening ceremony to take place on Friday, the Olympic buzz is building by the day. Lee Ji-won, Arirang News, Pyeongchang.
Now we're going to turn our focus to the visiting cheerleaders from North Korea now. We are seeing them in South Korea for the first time in well over 10 years. Other than celebrating the spirit of the Games together, their mission is to support the athletes of both Koreas, South and North, during the events. Getting us better acquainted with the group, here's Park Hee-jun.
One after another, they marched, wearing a red coat and dark fur hat, and on their chests, the North Korean flag. These are the 229 North Korean cheerleaders who crossed the demilitarized zone Wednesday to root for both South and North Korean athletes during the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics. While passing through immigration control, they greeted journalists with bright smiles.
반갑습니다.
예.
반갑습니다. 반갑습니다. 반갑습니다.
Most of them appeared to be in their early 20s. They carried both traditional and Western-style music instruments, and when asked by journalists about their repertoire, they gave a simple but concise answer.
원하시나요?
This marks the fourth occasion for the North Korean cheerleading squad, popularly known as the Army of Beauties, to visit South Korea. Their last appearance in the South was 13 years ago during the 2005 Asian Athletics Championships. North Korea did not always send young women to cheer at global sports events. For the 2008 Beijing Olympics, Pyongyang sent a mixed group of middle-aged men and women, and for the 2010 FIFA World Cup in South Africa, the regime sent a team of 100 male cheerleaders who were estimated to be in their 40s and 50s. Although only a handful of North Korean athletes are competing in Pyeongchang, the cheerleading squad is also expected to perform for the unified women's ice hockey team, as well as South Korean athletes throughout the Games. Park Hee-jun, Arirang News.
So, with the opening of the 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Olympic Games now just a day away, there has been a bit of a trouble, really, because there's been a sudden outbreak of the highly contagious Norovirus, and it's raising concern among organisers and visitors alike. With a number of staff members falling ill, organisers are doing all they can to try, at least, to contain the virus. Lee Seung-jae with more.
It's an unwelcome guest at the 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Olympic Games. Officials are scrambling to contain an outbreak of the highly contagious Norovirus that has sickened more than 40 security staff. But the number of people sidelined by the illness is rising, with dozens more Pyeongchang staff members falling foul of the virus, which causes diarrhea, stomach pain, and vomiting. So far, it seems the illness is confined to security staff as well as 3 food handlers in the media village, and everything is being done to prevent the virus from spreading any further.
Self-isolation is recommended for patients and epidemiological investigations are being conducted to track down the source of the virus to ensure it doesn't spread further.
With some 1,200 security personnel currently being told to stay in their rooms while they are tested for the virus, 900 soldiers have been called up as substitutes. While no athletes are reported to have caught the virus, a senior IOC official noted that Pyeongchang organizers are taking a no-risk, by-the-books approach when it comes to health matters that could possibly affect the games. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Good morning. We'll finally get relief from the deep freeze that's been gripping the Korean peninsula. The cold wave alerts have been lifted here in the capital, so it should feel much more comfortable this afternoon. And checking on today's afternoon highs, Seoul will get up to 1 degree Celsius, Daegu and Busan will make it to 5 and 7 degrees respectively. Even milder temperatures are on the cards for Friday, but another brief cold snap will strike the nation on Sunday and Monday. And those of you in Pyeongchang will notice temperatures jumping nearly 20 degrees from this morning to afternoon under sunny skies, and readings will also be generous for the opening ceremony of the Olympics on Friday. With that, let's take a look at the international weather for viewers around the world. While a milder weather pattern is on the way for much of the peninsula starting this afternoon, bitter cold continues to grip much of North Korea. And as for the rest of Asia, according to the Beijing's Environmental Protection Bureau, Beijing has met a national standard for the first time that sets a safe level for one type of harmful air pollutant this winter, thanks to dry and windy conditions. Meanwhile, sunshine and heat scorched Melbourne on Wednesday, but a cooler change is expected. Heading to North America, the evening commuter in Montreal looks to be highly impacted by the snow, and it's more likely that the roads will turn icy on Thursday. And as for South America, Buenos Aires will have steamy weather on Thursday, but rainfall on Friday will bring some relief from the heat. And taking you to Europe, the French capital is in gridlock as France is being hit by heavy snowfall. Even high-speed Eurasia train services from London to Paris were affected, as services were also cancelled throughout the day. Lastly, to Africa, Algiers will get some relief from the rain on Thursday. And that's all the weather update for now.
Well, thank you as always to our Jihan for the weather update, and that's pretty much all the news we have for now. But before we go, for those of you travelling, just a reminder that flight operations at Jeju International Airport had been suspended this morning due to heavy snowfall, but we're happy to report that flights are now going in and out of that airport, running fully operational. However, it's always best to check with your airline before heading to the airport. Well, that's where we're going to leave it for now. Our next newscast is coming up at noon Korea time, so until then, goodbye.